Hey everyone, Bryce Koon here with the Crowded Booth. We're back with another episode as we talk Hugh Freeze to Auburn. Ralph Leary is going to be joining me in just a second, but the Tigers have their head man. A lot of mixed feelings. We'll break it down here on today's episode of the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
Let's rock. Let's roll. Let's bring my man Ralph Leary into the show. Ralph, how you doing on this fine Thursday afternoon?
Honestly, until about 35 minutes ago, I did not know it was Thursday.
It doesn't feel like Thursday. I'll say that. It doesn't
does
feel like
not.
Thursday.
It honestly feels like a Tuesday or Wednesday. And I don't know. Tomorrow's Friday. It's crazy.
It's crazy for sure. Hey, I had to change the audio. Apologies, Ralph. Do you know that the entire time on our live show the other night that I was just talking through the MacBook audio speaker the entire time? I went back. People said, "Why are you whispering?" And I was like, "Oh, it's because my wife was asleep." But I was like, "Oh my gosh, that was bad." So, anyways, this sounds better. Does this sound clear?
Yes,
Pretty clear.
that sounds
Okay.
clear.
It's okay. Hey, we did a great job on that live show. Brent Key was named head coach of Georgia Tech. But if you're watching this or listening to it, it means that you are an Auburn fan. If you're an Auburn fan, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let us know down in the comments how you feel about the new head coach, Hugh Freeze. Ralph, we're going to hit this quick. We're going to hit it, just look, there's a lot of different takes. So I want to start off with this. Regardless of what you feel about Hugh Freeze as a person, I think football hire-wise, this is a really good one. I think Hugh Freeze is a guy that can win. He's a guy that also, too, talking with some folks, I think that he's the guy that he's going to call Auburn home. People need to realize with Freeze, this is his second opportunity. Mm-hmm. I don't see him trying to use this to get a bigger job. This is a place where he could be at Auburn, and if he wins, Ralph, he could be the next guy that's there for 8-10 years. I mean, this is a guy who really could retire at Auburn. I like the hire from a football standpoint. We'll get to the other part, but from a football standpoint, how do you feel about this?
I think it's a solid hire. I mean, it's probably, out of all the options they had, it's probably the safer hire. I know there's a lot of baggage with him, but, put that aside, like you said earlier, Hugh Freeze is a great coach. He's a solid coach. This is where you think he's going to call home. I agree, because think about it, besides the NFL, there really is no higher job going to happen that he would probably want to take. I mean, Alabama, he's not going to Alabama ever. That would never be a job option for him, probably. But, he's going to do great things at Auburn. He's going to have a good, solid chance to build an impressive program here at Auburn. He's a great quarterbacks coach. He's got I'll say this, and I've seen him in person. I've seen him on TV. I think Robbie Ashford is a great quarterback. Mm-hmm. Now, he's just rough around the edges. I mean, he's super fast. He's got an absolute cannon. He just needs some help. He's got a great quarterback coach now with Hugh Freeze, and he'll get some work with him. And I'm not saying Robbie Ashford's going to play and win the Heisman for Auburn, but he's going to he's going to make an impact next year or the next 2 years. So I think Auburn's got a solid hire with Hugh Freeze. I mean, my dad, who's a huge Auburn fan, said I like the hire. I don't disagree with it, because it's probably not who his number one option was, though.
Yeah. We all know who the number one option is. And the number one option was Lane Kiffin. It didn't happen. But if you have to pivot to a guy like Hugh Freeze, I think that matters. So we both agree Hugh Freeze was a great football hire. I'll say this too, Ralph. I think at the very least, you're going to get what Gus Malzahn gave you, which is, 8 to 10 wins a year, it kind of felt like, with a chance to beat Auburn. And I think, too, you're going to be able to recruit a little bit better. Malzahn suffered with that. They let Will Friend go. The offensive line coach for the past 2 years. We'll get into that in a later episode. This is kind of a reaction episode to this. I want to take a step with the moral aspect. Ralph, you and I both on social media, we don't really dip into, especially on the show, the political side, the moral side of these kind of things. But I want to say this about Hugh Freeze. There's many different camps of people who sit and say and point fingers on social media about you can have this, you can have that. Everything that's happened, everything that's gone on, I just kind of feel like this. And, there's a whole soapbox I could stand on. I will plug this because I think it needs to be said, Ralph. If you do really want to hear it, and I don't know if you've heard it, Ralph, You need to go listen to the Late Kick with Josh Pate and what he said about this and what he said about Hugh Freeze and Ole Miss. And I think that the whole time at Ole Miss, the time at Liberty, how all of these different things. This is the one thing I'll take away. Ralph, on the football, on the field type of stuff, we're going to be able to, gauge and judge those things. Everything else is just really not our business. It's not our business to determine what he is, what he is not. And I think that in the sense of Freeze, if Auburn feels right that he's done that, and I trust that they vetted, those different things and they've gone through that, it's not for me to judge. It's not for you to judge. Let's just roll and let's see how he performs on the field. I'm also going to take a page out of Josh Pate's book and say, if he wins, the reality of this, if he wins at Auburn, no one is going to care. No. And that's not condoning things that may have happened while he was at Liberty and that we know definitely happened at Ole Miss. It's just the fact of the matter and the nature of the sport.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we had no reason. There's no reason for us to dive into political aspects of what happened at Liberty or what happened at Ole Miss. We know what happened at Ole Miss, but
and to his credit, he admitted it. He admitted everything that happened at Ole Miss, and that says a lot.
And look at the bigger picture here. Look who Auburn's AD is now. He's one of the main reasons he got caught at Ole Miss. He was the one person who came out and said, "This is what's happening. You only look into this," and that's how he got caught. And that's the guy who hired him. Now, would you think that he would just hire him because what? Well, I could, we could maybe things can change. No, he vetted it. He wanted to make sure everything's good now. They weren't going to hire him just because of we need a coach now. It was a solid hire. I think it's a great hire. The timing of the hire probably wasn't the best when I said this as a Liberty standpoint because it was announced pregame, like 11:15. Players heard about it before the game, and they ended up getting beat because they just didn't care anymore. Our coaches leave. Why should we play anymore? Who are we playing for? Ourselves? We already made a bowl game. Why does it matter anymore? And then it's heartbreaking to watch players play like that. And I know probably he didn't want to do it that way, but that was what happened.
Yeah, it's a big reason Willie Fritz is not the head coach at Georgia Tech because he kind of backed off of it after it leaked by yours truly, was part of that camp that leaked this news.
Hey, let's go.
Let's go. But, Ralph, let's talk about this. As we kind of wrap it up, just the reaction. On the field, it's a good hire. Off the field, really just not for us to, be concerned about. That's not the sphere that we operate in, and if Auburn feels like it has done, we're going to judge the man off of what he does. Couple tidbits. Did you see where Auburn said you can't use your own Twitter account? Like, I'll tell you this, there's a no-tolerance policy at Auburn, and that's good, and he should want that because if Hugh Freeze is really going to preach or walk what he preaches from now on, then there should be no reason for him to hide anything. So I like that right there. But let's get to kind of where this takes Auburn. Ref, we talked about it recruiting-wise. You keep Cadillac Williams. Everyone wanted that. It's huge. Some players are entering the portal. That's going to happen, and we'll talk more about that as the portal opens on next Monday, December the 5th.
Woo!
But, Ralph, I think that Auburn's a job, and I said this on our live show talking about Georgia Tech. Auburn is a job that in 1 to 2 years you can really be back in the top 4 or 5 of the SEC. You really can. And I believe that with the boosters, the resources, the facility. I mean, that massive, beautiful facility that was just created. I mean, Hugh Freeze.
So nice.
Can we say that Hugh Freeze, there's no reason that he shouldn't have success at Auburn, in my opinion. He's going to have everything at his disposal, it feels like.
Well, I know we all know what he's capable of coaching. We saw it at Ole Miss. We saw it at Liberty the past few years. But at Auburn, you have, like I said, more resources, and there's no, rhyme or reason that he shouldn't be successful. I mean, in my opinion, every coach desires some kind of help, right? So you start with, your coordinators. Go find you some coordinators who can help out. I mean, you're going to need a solid defense coordinator at Auburn. He's a great offensive-minded coach. He's going to help with offense. That's where he's going to stick his hands in. He's going to mold that offense to where he wants it to be. He needs to go get him a defense coordinator that can out-recruit some of these guys in Alabama, who can out-recruit Georgia, Tennessee. I mean, he has to go get somebody. There's been names thrown out. Barry Odom, I'm not really keen on that one as much. I know him and Freeze are close, but there's Will Muschamp, who was a former Auburn defense coordinator, former head coach at Georgia right now. He's a solid choice for the defense coordinator job. I think that'd be a great choice to bring him back. He's a great coordinator. Another one is Travis Williams, who played at Auburn. I think. Make sure I'm right about that. Did he play at Auburn?
I don't know. I'll look it up. You keep rolling.
Well, he was also at Auburn for a while, but it's not the guys what they do on the field. It's how they recruit how they coach, and the guys they put out in the NFL for one. I mean, some of these guys want to go play for a coach that puts them out in the NFL. I mean, obviously there's A&M right now who's giving out free money basically, and players just leaving and taking the money with them. I mean, it's kind of funny right now, but I think what Hugh Freeze is capable of doing at Auburn, like you said, he's going to win 2 to 3 years. You're looking at probably an 8 to 9 win team again. Yeah. It's not happening next year. I mean, he'll lose. You're losing Tank Bigsby next year. That's obvious. He's going to the draft. I mean, people can say transferring. Stop. That's not happening.
No, he's going to draft. But you get Jarquez Hunter.
Yeah, you get Jarquez Hunter. You get Damari Alston, who played a little bit this past year. He's a true freshman. Yeah, and they're going to get some guys in probably the portal too. I think Hugh Freeze dips in the portal really hard this year. Why not? You need some kind of talent that's above sophomores. They really help this team out. Get you some veteran offensive line. Get some transfers to offensive line because you have none right now.
Yeah, Keandre Jones entered the portal today, a kid from Callaway High School right near us. But, Ralph, look, Hugh Freeze is the guy, and we're going to see how it rolls over on the Plains. Obviously, a big week next week with the portal opening up, early signing day. Make sure to stay tuned to all the great coverage. Ralph with the outro music. This is The Crowded Booth. Thanks for listening in on the radio, listening over on podcast form, or if you're watching on YouTube. Ralph, point down below because that subscription button, I got to learn how to speak, is right below. We'll be talking about that more and here on The Crowded Booth. Thanks so much for tuning in.